Backstage with Robert Emery.
Hello lovely people, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Backstage blog with me, Robert Emery. This episode is brought to you with the help of Lat 56. Lat 56 are a sharp, smart and efficient baggage company that help you take off relaxed and arrive ready to take on the world. In 2011 I completed 122 flights, and without their NASA spec material making such a solid travel system, the hours spent with my luggage being thrown from one plane to another would have caused me a big headache. With their bold and strong aesthetics, they make no compromise to achieve the balance between performance and style. With a lifetime guarantee, you'll be safe in the knowledge that their products will stand the test of time. When I first bought my travel bag from them, they only sold their flagship garment bag, an ingenious suit carrier that's stylish, compact, and crucially for me, going from gig to gig, didn't crease the suits. Since then, they've branched out to carry on luggage, backpacks, duffel bags, laptop bags, and even wash bags. Now, you know me, I'd only mention a company if I used and approved of them, and I do. And you know what? The thing I love about them the most is that after 7 years of wear and tear, my first bag still looks as new as the backpack I bought just 6 months ago. So if you're a busy traveler and want something that is stylish and secure, visit thebackstageblog.com and click on Partners. Hello lovely people, today I'm really excited to be having a chat with my friend, rock god and all-round crazy gentleman, Stewart Copeland. Stewart and I first met at a gig. He was hitting the drums as loud as he could to the soundtrack that he composed for Ben Hur. Scarily, I was conducting the orchestra who were dueling with him. It was like a baked bean and a baked potato had forgotten which one was little and which one was large. From that moment I picked up the baton. I knew that not only is Stewart one of the world's greatest drummers, and not only does he compose like a modern-day maestro, but after 44 years in the music industry, he still has the passion and energy of an 18-year-old. So I'll be honest, it's my first time recording an interview with me being the one asking the questions, so please forgive me. Like any good art, it'll take a while to perfect. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoy this worldwide whistle-stop tour of Stewart Copeland and his life.
Man, dude.
Good.
Okay, so welcome. So I think the first thing I would like to talk to you about is your slightly crazy childhood, because I'm pretty damn sure this has had an effect on what you've done in life later on. And I've done a bit of reading, and I know you were telling me we're here in Berlin, not in Berlin, in Basel. Somewhere in Europe doing Ben Hur, but we'll talk about that later. But I know you were saying the other night about you had a very interesting childhood, because if I've got this right, you were born in the States.
Yes.
You grew up in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
But then oh, did I?
Egypt.
Egypt. But then you went to boarding school in Somerset.
Yes.
Then you were in a rock band, and then you ended up back in LA.
Couple steps missing there, but fundamentally, roughly, that's the story. So that's the arc.
So it's a bit of a strange, unusual upbringing. So what is the reason for that? How did that happen?
My father was a diplomat.
Okay.
Otherwise known as a spy.
Okay.
He was, during the war in the OSS, his job was obviously the Nazis. But as the war was coming to a close, they realized that the Soviets were the real problem. And so even as they were finishing up winning the war together, the Soviets and the Americans, they were getting into the beginning of the Cold War. And at that point, the energy from the Middle East was very important. And so the CIA, as the OSS was morphing into this new thing called the CIA, my father was down in the Middle East, and his job was to make sure that the oil came west to our factories rather than north to the evil empire. And so to enact that mission, they imposed dictators upon the people, such as when I was born, my daddy was away on business. And I was born in Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, which is a suburb of the CIA. He was over in Cairo installing Gamal Abdel Nasser, who ran Egypt actually pretty well for the Egyptian people. And across the Middle East in Syria and the other countries, basically their job was to keep a stable system. They were not interested in social engineering or in democracy. They were interested in stability. And all the people of that generation, they were completely comfortable with the concept of dictators, otherwise known as monarchs. The idea of absolute power. It was not, these people were, my father used to like to describe himself as amoral. He said he would never have anyone assassinated with whom he would mix socially. And I don't think he ever had anyone assassinated either, but, he was a storyteller.
But did you know...
What did you ask me?
But just about your childhood. But did you know when you were growing up...
That's why I was there. No, I didn't know any of this growing up.
Okay.
In fact, it didn't seem exotic to me at all. In fact, it seemed to be lacking anything exotic because we didn't have TV. And at the American school in Beirut, I was in Egypt very young, but my memories really begin in Lebanon, in Beirut. And there was the American Community School. And for a while, there was a rumor that, in my generation, that's when the Saudis first started sending their young princes to get a Western education. The ACS in Beirut was the Western school, the American school in Beirut. And so it was the first time we started to see Arab kids amongst, Gulf state kids amongst the Westerners who were being educated there. And Osama bin Laden was one of those.
Wow.
Many years after me. Of course, if he'd been there when I was there, I would have kicked his ass.
Good.
But it all seemed, we didn't have TV, and the other American kids who had been home more recently would talk about this Xanadu, this fabled place called America. And in fact, most people outside of America in my generation heard of America as the shining light on a hill, and where the streets are clean and the people are, everything works and the systems are new and all this stuff. And gosh, there we were living in dusty old Beirut. And of course, now looking back on it, I'm sort of glad I grew up in dusty old Beirut.
Yeah.
But then my father's best buddy turned out to be a British double agent, name of Kim Philby. And his whole scene was kind of blown by that blow. My good buddy Harry Philby, his dad disappeared one night. 2 weeks later, he turns up in Moscow, and he true blue English. He was recruited in Cambridge and was a mole, and rose up in the MI5. And there was 3 or 4 of them, I think. Anywho. My father had to ship his family out just like that. We were there for 10 years, and then in a 2-week period, we were out of there.
You were gone.
And I did one term in London, at the American school in London, but ended up in Somerset at Millfield.
Okay. And
after that, I went to college in America, and then came back to London, where I met these other 2 guys.
So it was after you went to the States, and then you came back to London, and that's where you met the other 2 guys, as you call them. Okay, fine. So, but when did you start playing the drums?
Hard to say. My father was a musician before the war. I've still got his trumpet. It's a 1942 Con or something. I can't remember the year. I looked up the serial number. And it was a fancy trumpet. It's like the SG of its day. And he only devotes 2 or 3 pages about his jazz life in his book. But he played with both Dorsey brothers, Harry James, Glenn Miller.
Wow.
Although he's, for him that's déclassé.
Oh.
But he was quite.
So you grew up with music around you.
Yeah. So when he started a family, he thrust musical instruments into all the kids, and I'm the 4th child. And so by the time I came along, the house was full of abandoned instruments, and I picked up all of them. And I just was lost on all of them. And my father spotted the telltale sign of a budding musician, which is you can't get him to shut up. Any kid that you have to say, it's time for your piano practice, don't waste your time or his time or her time. The telltale sign is that kind of autism that, you can't stop the kid. And I was on everything. But the thing trombone, I think, was the first lessons I had, but I couldn't get to the 7th position. But the buddy of mine had a catalog, Slingoland drum catalog, with pictures of drum sets, which for me, that was like pictures of power, motorcycle. And really, Looking back now, as father of 7, I realized that the drum thing was partly because I was a very late bloomer. All the way through high school, even when I was, 12, 13, all my mates were growing faster. Their voices dropped. They started growing beards. They started turning into, and I was still a squeaky little kid. And the drums were power. Boom, bang, ah! And suddenly this squeaky little kid, now I'm a big silverback bastard motherfucker coming to eat your children. And for a little 12-year-old who was a squeaky little 12-year-old, that was power. And looking back, adding up all the impressions and memories, I remember the first show, actually at the British Embassy Beach Club party, at the St. George Club. Janet McRoberts was there, and I'm playing Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, or an Animals or Kink song or whatever, maybe House of the Rising Sun, and there's Janet McRoberts on the dance floor with that look, and I thought, shit, whatever this is going to get me somewhere. And also, I remember at the American Beach Club, overhearing 2 of the 15-year-old girls talking. And 15-year-old girls are just like an impossible dream for a 12-year-old, And they're talking about how Ian Copeland, who was the coolest kid in Beirut, by the way, he was the leader of the motorcycle gang. Ian Copeland was the coolest kid on campus. And they're talking, wow, I hear the Black Knights have got a new drummer. Oh, cool. Or hip or whatever they, And yeah, it's Ian Copeland's brother. Ian has a brother? And they're talking about this mythical being, the new drummer in the Black Knights. And is he cute? I'm standing there. I'm a little 12-year-old kid standing there with my ice cream. And these 15-year-olds are talking about Stewart Copeland as if it's somebody. And so these elemental, deep, crocodile brain part of the drive, the emotional drive, are very powerful. And my theory is that music is basically part of the procreative process of the human being. It's our mating dance. It's our mating ritual. It's our, as my mother, the archaeologist, would say, it's our plumage. And at that young age, particularly at adolescent age, music is so, with my kids, I see that music is so important to them. Here I do it for a living, and I still wake up every day and can't wait to make more music. But I can get through an hour without hearing music. My kids, it's the young mating dance. And so that was a very powerful impulsion to playing drums.
Sure. So you figured this is a very cool thing to do. You get lots of good attention for this. And
here's one more factor. My big brother Ian, coolest kid on campus, couldn't do it.
Okay.
Which was very unsettling.
Yeah.
Because one of the American kids, what happened was the Black Knights drummer, his dad got shipped back to the States. The drums he was using, which are barred or something like that, were and so they said, well, let's get Ian. As the coolest, let's get the coolest kid in school to play in the drum. And he tried to do it, and I could hear him in there in his room, the forbidden sanctuary, and he would, I could hear him trying to get it. And like that. And then he'd roar off in his motorcycle, and I'd sneak in on pain of death. And I'd get on there, and I can do it. Anyway, that's not right. I must be doing it wrong for me to be able to do it. What I heard him not able to do, my hero and older brother.
So you didn't have lessons?
Immediately, my father spotted, drums, great, lessons.
Okay.
And I had lessons at everything. The minute he spotted anything, lessons, and right away.
But something definitely clicked with you with drums.
Yeah, they stuck, and the guitar kind of stuck too. I played guitar all my life, never seriously, never took a lesson, never really developed anything beyond my favorite 3 chords. But those 3 chords, you can have a lot of fun on A, E, and D. Throw a G in there, F sharp minor even.
All right. So, the interesting thing for me though is that when I was growing up, I played the piano and I played the cello.
Cello.
Yeah.
Excellent instrument. A great blues instrument, by the way. You put that thing on your lap, play it like this, and it's a fantastic blues instrument.
But I couldn't do it. It didn't work for me.
The piano did, though, right?
The piano, I don't know why, but just sit there, play. It was easy. It just happened. You didn't have to think about it. I didn't really do any training to start with. It just happened. But cello, it did not happen. I could not get it to work. So, did you try any instruments out when you were
We're gonna
young?
have to work on a theory for that, because pianotude you got piano.
Yeah.
It works for you.
Yeah.
But two hands interacting to make one note seems to not work for you. I'm
That
the other
is
way
true.
around. See,
Yeah.
guitars no problem. I work on piano every day, and I still can't play "Mary Had a Little Lamb." See, you got that gift.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's only piano and conducting. But I tried many other things over the years. I tried clarinet for a while, couldn't do it, and it's just so concentrated what I can do with my music and what instruments. But you sound like you're the sort of guy who can pick up anything and give it a good damn go and have a bit of fun with
Well,
it.
whether I can or not, I will pick up anything
Okay.
and give it a damn good go.
And you have lots of instruments at home?
I have the world's largest collection of the cheapest instruments money can buy. I got trombone, I got bassoon, I got timpani, I got clarinet, I got viola, I got violin, I got cello.
Wow.
I got baby cello. I got bass guitar, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, acoustic guitar, banjo. I got all kinds of instruments.
And you tried them all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I get on eBay, and I haven't got a mellophone, and so I get on there and I look for mellophones or euphoniums, and I love brass instruments above all. In fact, today I played an alpine horn, which is 15 feet long.
Really?
And guess what? A, extremely light, made out of like bamboo or something. B, really easy to play. Doesn't require a lot of breath at all. It's like playing a trombone.
Yeah. I see. I couldn't even do that.
They were dead impressed out there. I fo 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 fo. Not that hard.
All right. So let's just rewind back in time a little bit. So you formed this band called The Police. How long was it from your starting point to all of a sudden something happened where you just went sky high?
It was incremental,
Okay.
but every step, headlining the marquee, felt like a stellar. That's it. We've made it. That's it. We're done. We're there now. And then the next step happens, and like climbing a mountain, you think there's the shoulder there, and we just get to there, and that's going to be the top of the mountain. You get there, and there's more mountain. And it was very much like that. But we did starve for a good 2 years.
Okay.
Where we were playing the clubs, and all of our gigs pretty much were cancellations by the genuine article punk bands of the day. We were a fake punk band. We were using the punk haircut as a flag of convenience, because really it's all about the hairdo. The stance.
Okay.
And Sting and I were both on the cusp, born in the early 50s. We were at the tail end of the hippie generation, where so by the time we got into our teens and wanted to rock out and be, young adolescents or young adult, it was old and stale. And even though we were steeped in it, he was in jazz and I was playing in Curved Air, kind of an art rock band. We were still the tail end of the last generation. It was all stultified and everything. And along comes Johnny Rotten and the Punkorama, and suddenly just burn it all down. And musically, I had nothing in common with that, except the fact that I like raw aggression in music. I like it. It's comedic, actually. But I liked all that. And they were like children. And Curved Air was running its course as an art rock band, so no problem. Cut the hair, peroxide of blonde, turned my collar up, and let's go punk. And we did, but the crits spotted us in a heartbeat as not the real thing. But fortunately, all the real thing, The Clash, The Damned, Eater, the Jam, all these bands, they didn't know how to hire a truck or a PA. They were managed by one of their mates who didn't have a clue. And so most of the Police's early dates were cancellations by other bands. I'd get a call on a Thursday afternoon saying, the Jam, Generation X can't make it. I can. I got a Rolodex. I know 3 guys with a truck. I know 3 guys with a PA. I can get that together. The truck sits, I can get out to, Islington, pick up that truck. The PA, Fred, the PA, can you make the date? Sure. I could pull it together and get there. And so all of our dates were like not Gen X.
But I'm going to press you on this because I know you say it's incremental, and I know you say it's like climbing a mountain, but I still believe that there must be one.
There are milestones.
There must be a gem somewhere, a little story,
Well,
a little
many.
something happened which put you on that clear direction.
Many.
What is it? What's the one? What's the one that comes to
If
mind?
I had to pick out one,
Yeah.
it's hard to say the one that was the payoff of all that, which would be Shea Stadium,
Okay.
where the Beatles played.
Yeah.
And when you play Shea Stadium, that's officially you have conquered America.
Okay.
And you're in the footsteps of the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know, that was pretty darned exciting. And it turned out to be the best show ever. I mean, we're just, we were a pretty hot band. But some nights just really went to another level and we amazed ourselves. Actually, we were pretty full of ourselves most nights.
All right.
But that was a particularly good night. Our first stadium, too.
Yeah, but how
Then we
did-
got sick of stadiums.
So that was your first stadium, yeah?
I think so.
But how did you-
It felt like the first anyway. But then we did all. We got to the top and then stayed there for a couple of albums before we were right at the top. There's no sign of the ascent was on a straight line when we threw in the towel because we had that folly of youth. And we actually, what turned out not to be folly, it turned out to be wisdom in a way of, I don't need these guys.
Yeah.
When usually when you hear band members say that, you try and advise them against it, know. But in our case, it actually sort of turned out to be a good thing that we threw it in when we did. We never saw the other side, the inevitable other side of the parabola. And so when we picked it up 20 years later, our thing was still pristine.
Crazy. Okay, so you've done many things in your life and you've achieved an awful lot, and I'll talk about composing in a minute. But first of all, do you have something that you have not yet achieved?
Conducting.
Okay.
Watch your back, mate. I've been advised, no matter how gifted how easy I think it would be, don't. I'm already trying to establish myself as a real conductor. And
A real conductor or
a real composer.
Okay.
Throw in amateur conductor and the learning curve with that. And there's been a 30-year learning curve with writing for orchestra. I didn't pick this up overnight. I've been working at this and trying to figure this out for decades. And I'm sure conducting would be the same sort of journey, which I would be really happy to make that journey. I'm kind of I'm in for the long haul on things. I'm good for the long mission. And I conduct small scale all the time. My singers, my soloists, when I'm working in the studio, bringing the singers in, I understand how to breathe for them, and so the indication, there's more than just there. It's there. Those nuances, and I understand the rhythm. And I took a conducting seminar, and I really enjoyed it. I did a movement of what the hell was it? It was a big, huge Bach movement or something. Not Bach. Anyway, it was fantastic. And
how many players did you have?
the Musicians Union sent about 2 or 3 chairs of violins.
Okay.
One of the brass, and it was pretty skinny.
Okay.
But all the different choirs were represented, and it was really a lot of fun.
Okay.
And the most fun part was that my reading's much better now than it was then.
Yeah.
And putting the things in 2, 3, and I just loved that, because the first lesson I had to learn was the opposite of drumming, where you groove and you are the groove and you feel the others, and and there you have to run ahead of the cart.
Yeah.
And you're ahead, you're not grooving with the band, you're pulling them, you're out in front of them.
So I do you a deal. The next time we do Ben Hur,
Yeah.
and we have time in a
Well, Ben
in
Hur is
rehearsal,
hard.
then I get you to conduct that. Yeah?
Let's do that. I will take you up on that with Tyrant's Crush.
Okay.
Okay, and you can play drums.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. You absolutely don't want to see me play drums. I tried
You
before.
threw down the gauntlet, mate.
Yeah. But you said you wanted to conduct. I never said I wanted to play drums. I'm happy
Okay,
waving my
what's the
stick.
quid pro quo here then?
That I get to laugh at you conduct.
Okay, all right, done, deal.
That's a very good deal. Okay.
No, I'd love it. I mean, who's got rehearsal time with 60
Yeah, precisely.
highly paid
we
musicians?
find the time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're a very busy guy, and you've achieved a lot. You've conquered a lot. You've had very different aspects of your career, which means that you're a very driven person. You must be a guy who gets up in
Doesn't
the morning.
feel like driven.
No, but you are. You must be. So,
Yes, compared to me, other people they talk about this thing, which is probably just as much as a mystery to you. This strange word, this strange concept called procrastination. Can you imagine? I mean, how is it possible to watch TV when you got a mission to do? It's not a matter of being driven. It's just a matter of there's a mission to do. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
TV is for when you haven't got a mission, or anything. Eating food or sleep is for when you haven't got a mission. It doesn't feel driven or anything. It's just like.
But what are the tips or the tricks or anything that you do to keep yourself energized, to keep yourself going, to get up in the morning to go and do what you need to do? Do you have like a ritual you have every morning for breakfast, or do you?
Well, yes. At my age, I have a ritual for everything because, the running repairs on this battered old frame, you just figure out that if I go to bed this time and if I eat that and do this and don't do that, my day is going to be better, and you have all these rituals. But I don't think any of these rituals are connected to motivation. I learned very early in life that daydreaming is a critical activity. That daydreaming isn't just wasting time. In fact, watching TV, I'd rather stare out into space and imagine some great fantasy that I get to play my drums with a huge orchestra. And then I get to write all the music into myself, and it goes dun dun dun, and it's really fantastic. And I'm just imagining this. And if you have a daydream that really sticks, and you keep going back to it, and you fill in the details of it, and to make the daydream work better, you start filling in the details, and it has to be realistic. So the details that you add need to be substantiated by, well, the way I got to being able to play with that big orchestra was that I met this guy, and well, how did I meet a guy? Well, because I was, and you actually what you're doing is concocting a scheme. As the daydream, if it's a really powerful one that really draws you, and you keep chewing on it and going back to it, you're actually working up a plan. We get a band with just 3 guys in it, and one of them's got to sing. Either the guitar or the bass player's got to be a singer because my singing's terrible. And it'd be great. And before you know it, your daydream is a mission.
And do you think that has any connection whatsoever with the fact that you're a very talented musician and you've got an amazing gut feeling about music? Do you think the two are interlinked in any way, shape, or form?
My oldest brother, Miles, he is driven. He's driven. And he has excellent musical ears, but did not get the gift of creating art himself. He is a brilliant receiver of art. He understands the zeitgeist, and he's picked hits. He's had hits after hits after hits that he's had. And my other brother, Ian, is an agent. Same thing. Neither of them can play. Ian, the coolest kid in school, tried to play the bass, and he can just about, but he did not get that gift. And
so you believe it's a gift?
The driven thing, yeah, absolutely. It is a gift. I don't know where it comes from. I am so grateful for it. I'm humbled by the fact that I was granted this. I kiss the ground beneath my feet that I've been granted this gift. I do not feel that I earned it. I do feel an obligation in a way to service it and to... It is such a gift that I feel that it would be a crime for me to let it languish in a way. I don't know where that idea came from. Maybe my daddy, taught me that or something.
Okay, so we're doing here in Basel, Ben Hur, and
I'm here with a big orchestra, and I got to write the music.
You're such a crazy guy.
It only took me 64 years to get that.
So you went from being a drummer, a rock star, into a composer. It's a bit of a strange leap. I can't really think of anybody else who has done that. Well, once again,
it wasn't a leap. It wasn't A and then B. It was A, and I guess the biggest leap was I got an incoming phone call from Francis Ford Coppola, who says, could I come down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he's prepping a movie, shooting a movie, and would I come down just kind of like hang out and talk music and concept and stuff. So I get down there, and the cast at that time, they're all kids. Every single one of them has now won an Academy Award. Diane Lane, Matt Dillon, I'm so terrible with names, Larry Fishburne, Lawrence Fishburne, Rourke, Mickey Rourke. All of them, Dennis Hopper. They've all, but they were just kids. That's a diversion. Anyway, so he just wanted some music, to talk music, and I got in there. Okay, I'm a little bit obsessive. And I said, great. And we talked high concept. And he had this idea that the reason he called me is time ticking in like high nude. I want this teleological, inexorable movement of time and with rhythm. And concept, I love concept. It's called daydreaming. The result, the produce, the fruit of daydreaming.
So he called you because he realized that the rhythm was such an important part, and he thought...
Because his 18-year-old son says, Dad, you gotta call Stewart Copeland from the Police.
Okay. And then you scored
and
a
he
film.
did. And I got in there, we bonded, and his deal is that he finds people that he has something, and he gives them their voice. He doesn't direct them. Oliver Stone told me every single note. What's that note mean? But Francis, he once you've got a connection, you're on the wavelength. He just turns you loose, and which he did. And I had to figure out myself how to score a movie, which I played that one all myself. Okay. And I played mallets and weird guitar parts and funny little sounds. And for them, since I didn't know how you do it, I had to invent the wheel for myself, which is another word for, and others applied this term, and I was happy to accept it, revolutionary. That's not how you're supposed to do it. But it's still, wow, that worked. But at one point, he did turn around and say, this is all great. I need some emotion. I need strings. And immediately, alarm bells. He's going to get some schlock artist in here. He's going to strings. Oh, geez. Francis, I got that. Yeah, you're right. We need some strings. And
that was the first time you'd worked with an orchestra?
Yes.
So you threw yourself into a bit of a deep end?
I played in the school band.
Okay, yeah, but I mean as a professional, as a guy.
Professional.
Yeah. Okay. So you threw yourself into the deep end as a composer who had
no experience. I had these chords that I'd worked out.
Yeah.
And I could play them one at a time. Okay, whatever. That chord. Okay, stop the tape. Okay, play that chord. And when it comes to the next chord, it's... okay, roll tape. Bang! And I could do that kind of thing. Yeah. And so for strings, all I had was footballs. Whole notes.
Okay.
I didn't know how to write anything else. And so the first question is, I call up a contractor, and he says, okay, how many strings would you like? And I go, how many? I don't know. Strings.
Just strings?
Strings. How many is strings? He says, well, 2 guys is strings, but it's going to sound like 2 guys. If you want, I guess what Francis wants is a big wash of emotion. Let's, I don't know. I think we ended up with maybe a dozen, 20 guys, something like that, And so somebody else looked at the chords and put it on a chart properly. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that from school, actually. Yeah, because, I actually did learn in college. I was at the California School of Performing Arts, where I learned figured bass, harmony and the
figured bass. The most boring thing in the world ever.
That's as far as I got.
If anybody doesn't know what figured bass is, don't even bother trying to Google it.
It's critical.
No, it's not.
No, it's critical.
It used to be critical. It's now very, very boring and confusing.
No, but what it did tell me is to not just do a barred chord up and down the neck like that, like a guitarist would do. And that it tells you that you can use inner voices, let everything moving in a different direction, and so on and so forth. And I was in a music school with other kids who'd studied the piano since the age of 7, and I was the runt of the litter. And one day she said, okay, everybody, here's your homework. Write 16 bars of well-voiced chords for 16 bars. And I already had a million tunes in my head, so I figured out something that I already had and figured out applying the rules that I'd learned in her class to something I already had. And she goes through the class, she plays Okay by Johnny, and she plays Johnny's piece. Yeah, very good. Bling, bling, bling. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, Stewart, there's your piece. Bling, bling, bling. Well, now you've got a parallel fifths there, and you haven't really resolved that. But it's kind of interesting the way that doesn't resolve there and resolves here. And now that you're not supposed to do this here, but there's kind of that note there. And now this would be what I would teach you next year.
I remember this from being a kid.
Yeah, and she finally ends up with Stewart. This is an actual piece of music.
Yeah.
And they're totally at the bottom of the class. Everyone just they can sight read. They've done their ear training. They're, I was just trying to become. I was starting at college age to learn the fundamental building blocks of music, where everyone else in the class had started much younger. I mean, I'd started playing music very young, but understanding the building block, the DNA of it. And so as long as I was there, when I went to University of California in Berkeley, I didn't get into the music school. They gave me the ear training test, and they'd play 8, bars of a tune and transcribe it. They play me an interval, identify it, all this stuff. Fail. So I studied instead mass communication and public policy.
Mass communication and public policy.
That's how I conquered the world.
Holy crap. Okay.
Much more useful. If I had actually gotten into that music department at UC Berkeley, I would now be the timpanist in the Ohio Symphony.
Okay. So I'm going to try and back you into a corner here for something.
Oh, great.
Because you told me you've got a kind of a philosophy about something. I forget what the phrase is that you use, but something to do with being dumb. Or like it's
the dumb shit.
There we go. It's the dumb shit. Okay. So can you just explain that?
Well, artists, for instance, have very bad taste in music, in whatever their art form is, because we're snobs. The popular music, I hear it and I can dance. I don't mind it. I like it, I guess. But what I really seek out are the things that are a little challenging, that put a gimp on it. That are, I don't mind pop music. I love it, like everybody else. But what I seek out is something a little beyond. And so I'll miss a hit. My brothers, that's a hit. And they can identify it and so on. I'm a little bit further out there. And so when I'm writing music or working on something, my manager will come and say, Stewart, that's great, but it's, what's that? And I go, well, that's the best part. You see, you call it the best part. It sounds like a wrong note to me. And I have to reconsider. It's the dumb shit. That's one aspect of... No, actually, that's dumbass. Sorry,
dumbass.
I'm completely...
So dumbass and dumb shit are two different
totally
things.
Different things. Totally different things. Okay, sorry. Forgive me.
Because I thought that dumb
let's
shit...
Let's finish dumbass first.
Okay.
So he comes in with dumbass.
Yeah.
Incomprehending, unsympathetic to how many hours I've put into that artistic revelation. Sure, great. It's, I need a dumbass every now and then to come and pop my bubble.
Okay.
And say, yeah, I'm sure it's really on some intellectual plane. I get what you're here. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you need your bubble popped every now and then. Every artist needs some dumbass.
Okay.
Usually provided by spouses.
Okay. Yes. I might.
You get some dumbass
feeling.
at home? Careful.
I
Careful.
Can't possibly say
Who's
anything.
in the corner now, bitch?
I need. Yeah, you got me. Yeah, fair enough. She's gonna kill me.
Let's talk dumb shit.
Dumb shit.
Let's get into some dumb shit.
How about your little
dumb shit? Okay, a good example of dumb shit.
Yeah.
I played the Letterman show, big national American TV show.
Yeah.
And it's drum solo week, and so I go in to play a drum solo, and I have a piece of music that I wrote for a ballet. And I work up a chart for the Tonight Show band, and they're cracking players, those guys. And we work up a thing and I play my drum solo, and at the end, it took a lot of music to build that thing.
Yeah.
Maybe 4-minute piece of music, the writing, the education in writing, the chops that I practiced, years, a life in music went into making that thing. Serious application, a vocation. And at the end of it, throw the sticks up in the air. Well, go on social media, how'd that go down? It's all about the Did you see how he threw the drumsticks? Wow, the drumstick thing, man. Wow, that Copeland, man, he's like he plays the thing and then he throws the drumsticks. And it's the dumb shit.
Okay.
And no matter how much vocation went into every other aspect of that performance, it was the dumb shit.
So it's the dumb shit that the audience identified.
It's something that stands out. I mean, I'm sure they were very impressed by everything else, and they wouldn't have been impressed by the thing unless they were impressed by all the rest of it subliminally. But the thing that caught their eye and that they're talking amongst themselves about is that odd little piece of nothing, that throwaway little something.
Okay, so here comes the corner.
Okay.
So you like the dumb shit, the audience like the dumb shit, but you don't write music which is dumb shit.
Oh, well, here's the thing.
You write music which is not always easily accessible. it can be, but not always. It's very intelligent music.
You are answering your own question.
No, I'm not, because I don't get it. If you know an audience likes dumb shit, why don't you write dumb shit?
Here's the two things going on. Remember how here's the main stream of wherever else, and I'm kind of running parallel, not quite bullseye level.
Yeah.
That's me here, see?
Yeah.
All the dumb shit's here, see?
Yeah.
So up here, trying to connect with that thing, occasionally I throw in some dumb shit.
Yeah.
And that's the connection. And I understand that my music is a little astringent for some, perhaps. What I find to be a comfortable, easy place in musical atmosphere might be not, sort of disturbing or not, people gravitate towards feeling good. And what makes me feel good sometimes is makes other people feel sad.
But why?
Or anxious.
Yeah, but why are you
Although as a professional film composer, I got pretty good at identifying exactly what chord has, this is happy, that's sad, this is happy, sad, and this is sad, happy. And there's a big difference, believe it or not. So I now am as a technician, I understand perfectly how to go for this emotion or that emotion. But my personal taste is, you describe it as being slightly off center, and I'm flattered. I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
It is.
But the dumb shit is to drop the barrier, to break the ice, to welcome aboard.
So you use it as a tool.
I use it as a way to break the ice. Instead of being alienated, that was weird. Oh, that's kind of funny, at least, or whatever, And so I be careful that I have, first of all, I do my thing, then I get a little dose of dumbass. Tell me, dude, this is like a little out there.
Yeah.
And then, reminded by dumbass, then I go and apply some dumb shit.
And then it makes everybody happy.
Well, it makes me happy. It seems to work. I've played my music in front of really adverse audiences and seem to get a result.
You're so good at answering questions, I genuinely can't tell whether I managed to back you into that corner successfully or whether you wriggled out of it.
No,
but
that's
I don't
the briar
care.
patch.
You're very good at it.
That's the briar patch.
So,
Please don't throw me into the briar patch. No, not the briar patch.
What? Okay.
Oh, you're throwing me into the briar patch. No. Okay.
Tell me, 20 years' time, what's the business going to be like? What do you think is going to be happening with orchestras, with pop, rock music? 20 years' time, what would be your prediction?
I don't know how orchestras will survive, but I would say that they will probably be branded, and that because they have a champagne quality that applies sophistication to a product, that they will be useful and hopefully government institutions will recognize the value of, here's an art form, here's a body of our culture that cannot sustain itself commercially. It cannot. An orchestra, 60 guys or 90 guys or 110 guys, they cannot sustain themselves as a commercial enterprise. They need either private donations or government donations. So where's the world going to be in 20 years? I would suspect that orchestras will be, as they are now, be vehicles of what they can do, which is impart dignity upon upon a product.
Okay. And what about rock, pop?
Oh, that'll always be here. It always has been, always will be. 4/4 rhythm, simple EAD chords.
Yeah.
All the revolutions of music. The hair comes. It's all about the haircut. Change the haircut, change the style of music. First you grow it long, and then you cut it short. And I remember my mom saying to me, "Sir, why can't you have long hair like all the other nice boys and girls?" Because by this time, peroxide. Everything about my, outward appearance said, "Fuck you, I'm going to eat your children." That was the intent. Whereas I was a little soft little
you're a little
timid
cutie.
soul inside.
Oh, bless you. Okay. All right, so that's your prediction. So just jumping back a bit.
Well, here's the thing. There will always be rock music, because if there isn't rock music, there will not be sex. And if there is not sex, there will not be anybody.
Well, yeah,
it's a part of our natural process.
It is now, but
it always has been.
Well, you say that, but what about when
music
Beethoven?
Was very early.
What about when Beethoven was around?
Well, when Beethoven was around is not early.
Beethoven was the kind of rock music of his day. I mean, he was so challenging when he wrote some of his music, and I'm sure that would have been the sex element of it.
I suspect that Beethoven was not the rock music of his day. I suspect that Beethoven was the pampered servant of rich people in their sophisticated, sublimated carnal desires. But out there on the streets of his town, Goothurst, Manwonk, or wherever he grew up, the people were dancing into the streets, not to Bach music.
Okay.
That's my suspicion. I just made that up.
Okay.
That's going to be a guess.
And
your readers or your listeners will write in and say, no, not so. But I'm sure popular music of his day would have been rhythmic and would have been dancing and would have given the male of the species and the female of the species an opportunity and impulsion and an audio permission to thrust their pudenda at each other and to display their genetic superiority through body motion inspired by music. That's what music is. Mozart, Bach, those are sophistications like many other of our crocodile brain behaviors are sophisticated and turned into a high form. Humans do this. We take, we take fire and we turn it into a jet or the internal combustion engine. That's what we do to fundamental building blocks of physics. That's what we do. And the fundamental building blocks of our music, which is part of our libido, which is part of our mating dance. You can develop that, and it turns out the combination of physics, the human mind, and sex produces high forms of art. But that's not what's really going on. Those are like the caveman drew on the painting because he had, to do it. So high art painting is not necessarily where it came from. But that throb, rock and roll, Bach was not that. Bach was not rock and roll. He's like the rock star of his time. No, but that's his position in society. But that's not the function of his music.
Yeah, but for instance, Paganini, who of course
he was popular.
Yes, he was like the rock star of his time,
and Mozart too, by the way, was in the streets and inspired by music that people are actually dancing to.
And Vivaldi Four Seasons, it's incredible music. But
well, now I'm surprised that they have any population in Europe at all. I'm surprised that they here. In fact, my whole theory, I'm just hereby going to throw it all because I just made it up anyway as I was talking, all out the window. No, you see, Europe would be depopulated now if they. If they were trying to procreate to the sound of Vivaldi, if that's the only reason humans procreate is Vivaldi, we would have been fucked.
That's a brilliant quote. That's going to be the headline quote on this podcast. Great. Okay, fine.
Well, there's all kinds of things about that.
Well, who knows? It's a projection about what's happening in 20 years' time.
Well, get this. Who would have ever thunk that the most effective music that gets right to the deepest part and releases all social training and everything and gives, young males and young females of our species utter permission is a mechanized rhythm that comes from a machine. Oops, 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 oops. To the extent that it's human is to the extent that it's less effective in releasing the libido and permitting these behaviors that would be utterly unacceptable without the presence of a strong beat. In fact, people standing in a room, they're not interested in procreating. There's music going, but their body, they're not even thinking about it. Their body is moving to it. There's more to it than meets the eye. There's something deeply physiological, something evolved very deeply in our behavior, human behavior.
Okay. And you yourself, you live quite a simple life. You don't have a big empire with 100 orchestrators and I
don't have an engineer.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to.
Yeah.
All the people of my generation, their workday begins when the engineer shows up.
Yeah.
And when the engineer got to go home and see my family, then the artist, that's the end of his working day.
And this is kind of a bit of an ethos of yours, is keep it small, keep it to yourself,
absolutely.
Keep it
the police
easy.
Was 3 guys.
Okay.
And it was designed that way. I want it. Let it be 3 guys. And I have my own record company that I did my gosh darn self. And every kind of, what's the cheapest studio in London? Pathway. An 8-track studio. Well, let's go there. And I call the guy and I chisel him down. And strip it back so that you've got maneuverability is the main thing.
But do you not think, though, if you have more people working with you, collaborating, working for you, that you can achieve more in life because more people are doing the stuff that you don't necessarily need to do?
Now, actually, that has been some place that I am getting to. I am in the process of arriving at that happy place where I can give it up.
Oh, okay.
And all during my young Pac-Man years and adulthood, I've always been very greedy of artistic bosshood. And I want to play every instrument myself. And I want to record everything myself. And I want to mix it myself. And I don't want anything to happen with me out of the room. I want to be into everything. The video, I want to make the video. And the video should be like this. And it should be, like that. And I just like the idea of not owning every aspect of it is kind of alien. But now with the passage of time, I've discovered that like a producer is really cool. Because all I have to do is do this, and then he has to clean up the tapes and figure it out and do all this stuff. So I've learned to give it up, to let other people, play with the ball, and the results can be really good. And in a band, you collaborate. And I'm not talking about a band collaboration because it's a corporate identity. And I feel that I don't have to do everything in the band, but the band has to do everything. The band has to decide on the album cover. The band has to decide what the video is going to be about. We're not going to have anybody tell us what and so in a band, it's a corporate identity. So the band is me. It's my band, even though there's two other guys who call it their band. It's, for each of us, it's my thing, And so the thing that I will never have, even as much as I'm prepared to give it up artistically, I will never acquire an empire. I have no need and no desire for an empire. And I look at fellow composers who have built empires, some very effectively. One of my erstwhile competitors, Hans Zimmer, who, big film composer, and he does incredible work.
He's Swiss, of course. Swiss.
Is he?
Yeah,
That's, of course, yeah. I always thought he was German or Austrian, but okay, Swiss. And he has an empire. He has 10 guys. He learned to give it up and say, I don't have to write every bar. Or he writes the theme and I don't have to apply it to this scene and apply that theme to the, I can have somebody do it for me and then check it. And then when he's done all the donkey work of here's the start time, there's the out time, this is the BPM that lands on the chord and does all the craftsmanship part of it. He's written the tune, that's the art. Then a craftsman applies it to the scene. And then the artist comes back and says, okay, that works, but you know what I'm going to do? And so he gets all the fun part. But he has to give it up and let other people do it. He has to hire those guys. And to hire those guys, he needs an empire. And to feed an empire, he doesn't actually go and get to be an artist as much as I would need to be. He has to take a lot of meetings. He has to get every action picture that's being made. He needs to get that work to sustain his empire. He can't take a job every now and then like an independent. Well, like when I was doing that, I was independent. A job every 2 months would feed my family. He needs every movie being made. He needs to have 3 or 4 AAA action pictures in his studio being made at all times. Or else, having that empire.
And that
in
doesn't
one sense,
interest you.
You can turn things over and like that. On the other sense, running the empire. So there's a difference between having an empire and having collaboration and letting the creative ball, letting other people play with the ball sometimes.
Okay. And one of your balls, of course, is Ben Hur.
Yes.
It's the reason why we're here. So you wrote the music for the live performance that happened and launched at the O2 Arena a few years ago, and now you've set it to play and run with the edit you did for the 1925 film. Do you have any other projects and films that you would like to do that? Have you ever seen another silent movie and you thought, I'd love to score a film? Or is Ben Hur such a special thing for you that's the one that's...
Well, Ben Hur came and got me. It was an incoming call to score, as a hired gun composer, to score a stage production of Ben Hur.
Yeah.
And I did that. The show ran its course. It was huge behemoth of a show. Started in the O2 Arena in London. And it ran its course. And then I wanted to do the concert. And so I found the 1925 film. And that became a different journey. It's sort of like it came for me. I didn't select that film. But other films, I've looked at some other films by Fred Niblo, the director. But that's just such it's such a huge shot. It took 3 years. And it was kind of fun. And I could easily do another one. Not right away, because I'm having too much fun with Ben Hur. Yeah. I haven't finished playing Ben Hur yet. And, I also write opera. I'm in year 3 of an opera that I'm writing for Chicago and Long Beach. And I'll get around to another film one day, I suppose.
Okay, all right. So last thing, I'm 33, actually. I can't even remember my own age now.
You're a bit young to be lying about your age. Pretending you don't know how old you are.
What advice would you give somebody like me who is, hungry, relatively young, passionate about what I do, and I want to make sure that when I'm a little bit older, that I'm still hungry, passionate about what I do? What general sage advice would you give me? Because I know you're like a grandpapa on this sort of...
Stew daddy.
Stew daddy. So do you have anything that, you look at me, you've worked with me now for the past week?
Well, I would say, having lived in, worked over the last week, I would say that you have a couple of gifts that will take you where you want to go. You also have a surfeit of energy, which takes you into empire building. We have discussed this for your viewers.
Yes.
There's a backstory here. I've been lecturing this young man about casting aside the empire and getting on with the music.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to end up like a man who I respect deeply but do not want to be like Hans Zimmer, where he spends all his time in meetings having to do the not music part of the enterprise. And I would say that at your age, you've got energy to burn. So go ahead, build an empire. But I suspect that one day you will start getting that empire out of your life. There have been a couple of times we've been on the streets. We were on the Swiss Riviera the other day, and you're walking around the streets, and you're on the phone dealing with something. I don't know what you were dealing with, but it looked important.
Yeah.
And without an empire, I don't have anything to deal with. I'm enjoying the day.
Yeah, you're very chill.
There you are, young man, young Pac-Man.
Can that be my nickname from now on for you? I like
sure.
that. You just call me Pac-Man.
Yeah.
I like that. That's very retro.
Well, I have sons, several who are, older than you.
Yeah. You have 7 children.
I have 7 children.
Boy.
Yeah. 4 boys and then 3 girls. And I'm proud to say that some of my sons are also Pac-Men.
Yeah. So you like Pac-Man?
Well, that's what I tries to raise them to be. At this age, from 25 to 35, that's your chance. Take no prisoners, just remorseless, just bite off as much as you can get and do it while you've got no baggage and just, fight, scramble. And then there will come the point where you want to put down roots and take it a bit easier. And that's called midlife crisis. And what the crisis is all about is you realize that that's the peak.
Yeah.
That's where your youthful vigor got you. And the rest of your life is the result of that 10 years span. That 10 years is setting up what the rest of your life will be.
Okay.
So I would say, you asked for a piece of advice?
Yes.
To focus your attention on the things that you'll still want to be doing, which apply to your gift, not to your acumen.
Okay. Well, I'll see you tonight on the stage.
Absolutely.
Thanks, mate.
You're going to rock the house.
In a superstar, isn't it?
All right.
Man, had.
All right.
Thank you very much.
In your bare feet.
Yeah. Hey, it's me again. Sorry to bug you, but as this is a new podcast, I need your help. If you enjoyed listening to the fun I had with Stewart and you'd like more, then please head over to thebackstageblog.com, sign up, and receive the next podcast directly to your inbox. It's also crucial that you get as many friends on and off social media to take a listen by sending them a link to the show. Now, remember, this episode is brought to you with the help of Lat 56, the smart, sharp, and efficient baggage company. So until the next time, appreciate the music, and the musicians will appreciate you.